Hey, everybody, welcome into Southeastern 14, where we're previewing all of the Week 1 SEC games from a betting perspective. Today, we're talking about Louisiana Tech and Mississippi State. This is the opener for both teams at Davis Wade Stadium at 4 o'clock Eastern on Saturday. This game's on ESPNU, and Mississippi State's the favorite by 23 points. The over-under is 53, so that's kind of the basics. Christopher Smith, I'm going to bring you in. What are you thinking about this game today?
Yeah, it'd be great to see what Mike Leach does in his second year in the SEC. Always entertaining, no matter what happens with him. And I'm excited to get the season kicked off in Starkville and see how we can make some money this year. But why don't we go ahead and look at Nick's news and notes, where you give us all the great headlines that are buzzing around Starkville heading into this season opener.
Sure, yeah. So first, I want to talk about weather. Today in Starkville, there's really nothing to be worried about. We've got a partly cloudy, high of 85 forecast, so everything should be good to go there. No rain, no wind. And there's two things I'm looking for on the field. The first thing on the Louisiana Tech side, watch out for Austin Kendall. That's a name you may have heard of. He's a former starting quarterback for West Virginia and Oklahoma. And according to the Louisiana Tech beat writer, Ben Carlisle, he's going to be the guy who takes the snaps for Louisiana Tech on Saturday. This may come as a surprise to some people. It was a little bit of a quarterback competition going into fall camp, but really when it got down to it, last year's starter Luke Anthony just wasn't quite healed from his offseason or from his injuries that were sustained late last season. And then he tried to work his way through it. And we may still see him at some point in the season, but from a betting perspective, we're talking about Austin Kendall in a new situation, his third as a college quarterback. And then on the other side of the field, my question to you, Christopher, is, are we looking at a little bit of a Mike Leach bias when it comes to overs? And the reason I ask you that is everybody loves to talk about the innovative Pirate and his offensive scheme, the air raid that so many people have mimicked over the years. And you think of all the points that he put up at Texas Tech historically. But his first year with the Bulldogs, they only hit the over 3 out of 10 games. So is this really a situation where we should be looking to bet the over with a Mike Leach offense, or has he changed a little bit as he's aged?
Yeah, so if you look at the total right now, it's sitting at 53, up only a half a point from where it opened at 52.5. Not really moving across any key numbers. You look at the current line, it's actually moved 4.5 points. It opened at minus 27.5, now sitting at minus 23. So that's interesting. But like you mentioned, Mississippi State's offense struggled most of the year. It did look a little bit better toward the end of the season. There were a lot of personnel issues. There was a lot of drama, especially on offense for Mississippi State last season in the locker room. And you look at what Louisiana Tech returns, and they return 10 starters on defense, in addition to Tennessee transfer Balin Buchanan at cornerback and Willie Baker, who was a big player for them 2 years ago but missed last season. So it'll be interesting to see. What I want to know is every coach in the SEC, except for LSU, they didn't get the memo. Bo Pelini didn't get the memo. Every other defensive coordinator in the SEC dropped 8 defenders against Mississippi State. And that pretty much just ruined Mike Leach's entire plan. And, we kind of make fun of the Pac-12 a lot in the SEC. And this is another instance where that's very possible, because Washington figured it out. They dropped 8 against Washington State every year, and they crushed Washington State every time. I'm not sure what the rest of the Pac-12 was doing, because every SEC team had no problem shutting down Mike Leach simply by dropping 8. So my question is, will Louisiana Tech be smart enough to do that? Skip Holtz is the coach. They're 22-12-2 as a road underdog in the last decade. That includes 3-1 against the spread as a road underdog against SEC teams in the last 5 years, including a couple of 1-point losses that could have easily won those games. So I trust Skip Holtz. I trust the coaching staff to be smart enough to know to drop 8 people in coverage. But my biggest question for Louisiana Tech is the other side of the ball as well. Mississippi State's defense was surprisingly effective last season, better than I thought, despite a lot of obstacles that were put in their way, including just a wretched offense that put a lot of pressure on them early and often. And so my biggest question for Louisiana Tech is, can their offense actually do enough against State? Because I expect State's offense to be a little bit better. And Louisiana Tech, for as well as their coach, they don't have an Alabama defense exactly. So what do you think in terms of putting your money where your mouth is on this game, Nick? Who are you taking, and tell us why?
Well, so the stats you just read off to me make a very strong case historically for Louisiana Tech under Skip Holtz to at least cover the spread. And at 23, I think there's a lot of room for them for Mississippi State to still win this game, but Louisiana Tech to comfortably cover. So I'm going to take Louisiana Tech plus the 23. And then I think we may disagree a little bit here. And I know I questioned Mike Leach's ability to hit an over earlier in the video, but I think I'm going to like the over of 53 here. I think that's a reasonable total for both teams to push this over. And I do expect some improvement in Mike Leach's offense from year 1 to year 2, which is when you often see the biggest jump for a team under a new coach. How about you?
I'm taking Louisiana Tech plus 23. I like Holtz coaching this game, and I do expect Mississippi State's offense to be better, but will it score 35 plus points, which I think is what will be needed to cover this spread? I'm not so sure, especially with a veteran defense on Louisiana Tech's side and good coaching that will probably make sure they keep everything in front of them and make Mississippi State run a lot of plays and sustain a lot of long drives. I'm also going to take the under 53 as well. I do like Mississippi State's defense in this matchup. I like both defenses actually pretty well, despite Mississippi State's offense probably going to be better than they were last year. So we'll see how it turns out. We're on different sides on the total. But for Nick Cole, I'm Christopher Smith for Southeastern 14, and we'll see how the game turns out.